flowers bloom in the sun. Each morning at dawning, birdies sing and everything. A sun-kissed mist says, don't be late. That's why I can hardly wait. Open up that golden gate, California, here I come.
Well, hi, folks. It's Huell's Gold coming at you.
Hot.
Episode 18. We're on the Blossom Trail.
Not for very long, but we're there.
Yeah. This is going to be a fun show. It's kind of a two-parter on our end. We got our normal, we're slamming our 2 cents in your heads. And it's...
But not just us today.
Yeah, that's the second part.
Let's hear it.
We got some special guests. As we said last week, our wives are going to be here. And also our friends from Fresno, Stephen and Megan.
It's going to be a Central Valley, all day, all time.
Love affair.
Love fest.
Yeah. But before we get to our special guests, we need to get rolling on this episode.
But before that, we need to clear up.
Yeah, we got some
old
amendments.
The proverbial whoopsies.
Yeah.
And that has to do with the last episode when we spoke about the Rogers and Dale Evans Museum. And that's not to be confused with the Will Rogers Museum.
Which doesn't exist.
Which does not exist.
Well, who knows? But I doubt it.
So we were speculating that Mr. Rogers...
Yeah.
that he would be buried with Trigger whenever he passed. Mm-hmm. And we obviously got past that. Whatever. Didn't happen. But as for the fate of the museum, that passed as well.
Yeah, I learned that it moved to Branson, Missouri at one point in the early 2000s, I think it was. And then old Dusty, Roy Jr., he, I guess, ran into some money problems, and he shut the place down.
He just, did he slang the stuff? Or
he
what
auctioned
did he do with
everything off, and apparently, the only figure I could get as far as prices was for Trigger himself.
Okay, what was it?
$220,000.
Old Dustman did pretty well.
Yeah, I think he probably set himself up.
Unless he owed some loan sharks.
Yeah.
Some money.
Some of those Branson, Missouri loan sharks. But it's sad to know that the museum is gone, but thankfully we have this episode to show us what it was like, because I kind of would have wanted to go.
Did you?
Yeah. Like if I was in Victorville or turns out Branson, I would have gone.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
When you were at your family reunion 2.0.
Yeah, just after skateboarding.
Yeah.
And I think King Kong was on. Original version.
With the Puff Daddy song?
Jimmy Page?
Oh, that was Godzilla.
That was Godzilla.
Dang, I'm all screwed up.
That was a good mashup, though.
Either way, we're done with Roy Rogers. We're heading on the Blossom Trail, and we need to know exactly what happened with Huell because, as you know, road trips don't always end up how you plan them.
Especially spontaneous road trips.
Yeah, which is what happened with Huell. He says in the cold open that the show is basically a crapshoot because they're heading to Fresno based solely on a brochure, which he has in hand while driving. So he's doing a television show, reading a brochure, and laughing with Louie while driving.
And I think he knows it's a crapshoot, but
at
the same time, he was very optimistic.
Yeah.
I think he's an optimistic person.
Yeah.
But I mean, look at his face. We have the
You'll see on Instagram. He's having a good time. But let's see what happens when you head out on the Blossom Trail with little to no information. Huell, hit it.
Now, Fresno is located right in the middle of the San Joaquin Valley. And one thing we discovered right away is that this is beautiful country. In fact, we were so busy looking at the scenery, we missed a turn and got off the Blossom Trail for a couple of miles before we realized what we had done. Once back on the trail, we could see right away that this is indeed a rich agricultural area. In fact, Fresno County is the #1 agricultural county in the nation. Lush vineyards and almond, apple, plum, orange, apricot, and peach orchards stretching as far as the eye can see in every direction. Yep, we saw lots of orchards all right, but no blossoms. In fact, everywhere we looked, all we saw was green, except for one small area of blooming trees, which I had to get out of the car and look at up close. The blossoms were beautiful in this little patch, but they were dropping off the trees. Then, a few more miles down the trail, we saw some men working in one of the orchards, and since they looked like they knew what they were doing, we decided to ask them, where were the blossoms?
So, pure disappointment.
Yeah. And this kind of inspired us to do what we did and what you'll be hearing about, because this whole episode is kind of a disappointment as far as the title of it, because he doesn't see any blossoms. Well,
A very limited number.
Yeah.
Next to nothing.
in fact, when he finally does see blossoms, he gets out and he has to touch them.
He don't touch them. I think he grabs and shakes them.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, these blossoms are falling right off." Well, yeah, you're slamming the branch all hard. But this inspired us to go and see the Blossom Trail itself now, which is what we did, and it's what you'll hear. But one thing that happens later in the episode than normal, which we need to talk about, is the theme this week. And it's a trio of singers in the blossoms, which... why didn't they check those blossoms out?
I think that was the tiny amount of blossoms they did find.
Maybe. Even though they're different colors, but...
that's true.
what are you going to do?
But you know what? Just plop the old trio in there.
Yeah. And their names are Janice, Noga, and Charles and Wendy Colbreth. In fact, I found one of them on Facebook, and I got a message pending, so...
is it Janice, or is it Wendy, or Charles?
I don't want to say, because I don't know if she's going to want to be on the show or anything. So the person I talked to...
well, you got to pressure her.
How else are we going to get these people to talk about this show?
I know, right?
They were on 25 years ago. But hopefully we get to hear some stories, because that's how we learn our juicy tidbits that we like so much.
Well, do you know what you get to see on this episode is the California Gold logo just sweep across the screen and never stops.
And it's also over fast motion footage of the drive.
Yeah.
But as you heard, the Blossom Trail was a bust, but Huell had other things in mind to do. And he went and checked out a little town we call Reedley. Huell, tell us about that.
Okay, so we were a little late. A month late to be exact. But in our defense, with all the rain and warm temperatures, it was an early spring. The question now was, what do we do next? Well, we noticed in our official Blossom Trail brochure that one of the historic stops along the trail was the 100-year-old farming community of Reedley. So we decided to check it out, and we liked what we saw right away. A nice little community with a well-preserved downtown, and a residential section that included some of the most beautiful old homes I've ever seen. We drove around Reedley for a while, and then parked on the main street and asked directions to one of the town's main attractions that also just happened to be listed in the Blossom Trail brochure. Turned out we'd parked less than half a block from where we wanted to go, and our Reedley adventure was underway.
So Reedley, here we come.
Reedley, here we are.
Here we are. And as you heard, what did Huell say?
He referred to where we're going as the town's main attraction.
Yeah. And that main attraction is...
none other than...
the Mennonite Quilting Store.
which, if I'm not mistaken, is one of your favorite stores.
Well, I like to stay warm in the winter, so a store that allows me to do so with great style and comfort, why would it not
It's okay by you?
Yeah.
All right.
But this is a very funny segment. Huell has a good time here, and he really is fixated on one detail, which is funny because these quilts are highly detailed, but it's not the detail you'd expect.
It's the fact that these ladies stick their fingers.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, because they explain many times that as they're sticking the needle through the quilt to go to the bottom, they have to feel it with their finger that they've gone through, so they prick themselves a little bit, which it makes sense, but it is kind of odd.
Yeah, it is weird, but who are we, right?
We're not Mennonite quilters, but this place is jam-packed with quilting ladies.
It's popping.
It's popping off. And they all seem to go to the same hairdresser because they all have the same hairdo, except for our first interviewer,
but
interviewee.
That's Pat. I'm gonna go with Pat.
Bergthold. It's Bergthold.
Bergthold. But Pat, we never see her quilting herself, so I think she just showed up.
Yeah.
So, but in order to be initiated into this quilt gang, you have to have the same hair.
Yes.
And obviously,
The rite of passage.
This is the easy way to spot a person not in the quilting gang.
But Pat is with the Reedley Historical Society, which is odd that she would happen to be there on this haphazard road trip.
Well, a little later, we're going to figure out that someone tipped off the Chamber of Commerce as well.
Yeah. But after Pat, we meet Martha Flaming, not Fleming, Flaming. She's 94 years old, which seems to be something that we needed to know since they put it in her little credit on there, which is funny. But, she's also explaining the quilt patterns, and yeah, it's okay. But then we move on to this more sticking the finger questions. Now, did you notice that there's two separate things going on here? There's the quilters and the comforter makers.
Yeah.
And that's another thing with the needles that Huell goes over. But
you were noticing a quality difference
between
the tools, right?
The quilting ladies have a thread holder it looks like something that was hand carved out of wood, this special little thing. And there's a couple of them in front of each lady. But the comforter ladies, their stuff is just thrown in old sour cream buckets. And it seems like they're this, like, maybe the noobs, the second class citizens over there. I don't know.
That's awesome.
It's funny.
Yeah, but you're right. Huell's really concerned about how they poke their fingers, and
yeah,
and he even gives her a question. Aren't you supposed to wear a thimble?
Well, but then you got to have that feeling. You got to have the feeling of to know that you're through to the bottom. All right, man. Martha.
Did you notice, though, not everybody, there were certain ladies who were quite giggly around Huell.
They're having a nice little giggle fest at this strapping young man.
That's what I was gonna say. Some are tickled with Huell.
In fact, the laughing gets out of hand when the roll happens.
Yes.
And the roll is seemingly the big event of the day.
Well, yeah, but okay, I'll let you. Sorry.
Okay. So the roll, basically, these quilts are on these wooden kind of track things, and then they roll the pieces that they've already quilted along, looks like a 2x4, so that they can continue down the row of the quilt to get to the middle, is the ultimate destination. And they're like, okay, it's time for the roll. And Huell's all pumped, and he looks over to talk to this lady, and he looks back. It's already done. That was it?
Because while watching it, you have the same feeling. Like, okay.
When's it happening?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
And because the lady, I think the reason that Huell is ready for it is she says, okay, watch it roll.
And it should be noted that they never say it's rolling or the rolls. It's just one roll.
It's just boop.
And it is just one little roll.
And then Huell, being a nice guy, his first response is, well, that was nice.
Yeah. And that gets this lady cracking up. And Huell throws the mic in her face and she says, I don't have anything to say. I'm just laughing. But she turns it around and makes it into this serious thing when, the quilts and the patterns and this and the that.
And then she gets giggly at the end. So she does a full cycle.
Did you notice her friend scooted away from Huell?
Oh, she's
not
no
into
interest.
it.
Yeah.
No. She's like looking like, oh God, look at this.
Well, his
guy.
elbow's almost hitting me.
He almost touched my perfect poofy hair.
The next bit, when Huell's interviewing another quilter, and there's a young lady.
Yeah.
Who's,
Probably
who's
12,
helping them out.
13 years old.
Yeah, and they referred to them as youngsters.
Youngins.
Youngins. It was youngins. That's right. Because I got it mixed up. Because she refers to the ladies who are currently quilting as oldsters.
Yeah.
This is not a common way to refer to older people.
No, I mean, the lady who says it is not that young herself, so maybe she gets away with it, but it doesn't seem to go over well.
Yeah, and she was talking about bringing the next generation in, and apparently they did something right because the Quilt Museum is still open.
Sure is.
So,
yeah. And we'll be talking more about that later because that was part of our trip that we did. But Huell is kind of wrapping it up with the quilters, and he says that he gets a suggestion for lunch from someone at the quilting center, and let's hear where he's heading.
Now, the visit to the Mennonite Quilting Center was a great way to start off our day, but it was time for lunch. And one of the ladies told me that the town hangout, especially if you like Armenian food, was Uncle Harry's restaurant, located about 2 blocks down the street in the Grand Hotel. Now, the Grand Hotel is a local landmark built back in 1889. And once inside, I was officially greeted by the restaurant owner himself, Harry Horasanian, who had heard we were coming and wanted to do his part to make us feel at home. He'd even arranged for me to eat with some locals, Hilda and Waldo Fleming, and with Barsh Minogian, who's 91 years old and has lived in Reedley his entire life. In fact, Barsh owns the Grand Hotel. It also turned out that Harry had prepared a very special Armenian dish for my lunch.
All right, Harry's.
Uncle Harry's.
Great Uncle Harry's.
Yeah.
When Huell was mentioning it, Harry's doesn't sound like an Armenian
No.
food place. I mean, his last name comes through.
Yeah. What was
Which
his last name?
Arnisarian?
Yeah. That's,
That's okay. Oh, for sure.
But Uncle Harry's, a restaurant, it's like at the corner of the 2 main streets in Reedley, and it's in the bottom floor of a hotel, the Grand Hotel, which you heard a little bit about the history of it, and that the owner, the 1-year-old owner of the hotel, is actually joining Huell for lunch, along with Waldo and his wife. I forget her name. This is a local, not just local, like it's a countywide kind of phenomenon. A lot of people go there. Our friend, who you'll be hearing from, went there for lunch a couple times.
Did you notice the demographic at this particular time?
Well, it's got, what's this? Got to be like a Tuesday morning. So these people
Tuesday
are having
mornings.
dinner.
Yeah, because everyone's older. It has to be the middle of the day is what I'm getting at. Mm-hmm. Type of person who's able to go in the middle of the day, usually a retired person, and it seems like this is the place where they share their meals.
Yeah. So Huell explained that they had some special dishes made for them, and those would be the pita burgers, the Lulu burgers, which was like half lamb, half beef burger thing, and then Huell's specialty, which he
loves it.
Yeah, right. He is so skeptical of this thing. because first, okay, so I'm guessing this is Harry's wife who is giving out the burgers at first.
Which she seems like a fun lady.
Yeah, that shirt. It's like a rainbow colored, not even Hawaiian. It's just like,
I thought it was either like a toucan shirt.
there you go. Yeah, perfect description. A toucan shirt. She hands out the burgers, and then old Harry brings out the huema. Which, what do you think about this?
Well, you hear Harry's description of it.
Yeah.
Right? And he says, yeah, it's very rare. Raw, in fact.
It's these two
It's just-
meatballs.
It looks like when you're rolling a hamburger to that perfect ball, before you smash it to make it a patty.
Yeah.
No, he just serves it.
That's it.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah. So he's got these two meatballs that are so very much obviously rare. Not rare, raw.
Raw. Yeah.
Raw ground beef. And he says, but there's seasonings in there. Onions, parsley, and cracked wheat.
So
cracked
my reaction would probably be the same as Huell's. Because the idea of just sipping on some cold meat, like ground beef,
yeah.
I don't know. It's just
I know
not
it's a thing, and I asked our friend Steven if he tried it, and he said no. But
just cold meat. I don't know.
Yeah. Either way, Huell's skeptical. He says he's going to give it a try, but that he should thank Harry before he tries it because he doesn't want to have to lie afterward.
When we went to Louis' talk in Valencia. A person asked about Huell, how he reacted to menudo.
Yes. Yeah.
And Louis said, he kind of stuck a spoon in it and he moved it around a bit, but he never tasted it. And if Huell could get away with it, I am very confident that he would not have tried to bite of this.
No, because Louis even said that he's just a steak man. And
which maybe he would have then, if this is ground beef.
I don't know. I mean, he probably would have just said, hey, can you just go throw this on the grill?
Can we just go to In-N-Out? Yeah.
But Huell does try it. And he ends up saying that it's actually pretty good.
Right. Yeah. He asks a key question, though.
Which one?
When the guy is trying to... So when Huell's trying it, the person next to him, the older man...
Oh, that's right.
He looks around and he's like, why am I the only one eating it?
And that guy, quick, he's like, oh, well, I had that on Saturday because it's a special Saturday-only thing.
Dude, it was But if this was a cover, it was perfect. Because I feel like when I was in elementary school, this is what people would tell you. Oh, no, they made it special for you.
Yeah. Which really was... I mean, if this wasn't for TV, you would question that, but...
Yeah.
Harry did do that. When Harry is kind of explaining the dishes, the Armenian dishes...
The army? The Armenian?
Armenian dishes. Huell asks, are all of these authentic Armenian dishes? And he says, yes, we make most of the authentic dishes, but there's unlimited dishes. There's no limit to how many.
Maybe he was saying there's no limit to how good our dishes are.
He is a no-limit soldier. Yeah, I think he meant quality as opposed to quantity.
I think so
of
too.
Types of dishes.
Well, even like the combination of dishes, like it's not unlimited.
But yeah, that's the food is obviously the key at this restaurant. But
there's one last interview, right?
Yeah. Someone tipped off the Chamber of Commerce, and a lady
just had a brochure.
Yeah, we don't get her name. She's just Chamber of Commerce lady, and.
With sort of an East Coast accent.
A little bit. And she shows up having heard that some guys with TV cameras are around. You better come tell them something. And what she does tell them is that because this was an early blossom that Huell obviously experienced since he didn't see the blossoms, that their way of getting around this, because people show up for these blossoms. It's world famous. So what they have done is they've put pictures of flowers up at their art gallery.
Which I like that in an effort to appease people. They didn't plan on doing this. We got some angry mobs looking for blossoms.
It's damage control. That's all this is.
Well, she did say something about Reedley. Is Huell mentions that it's a wonderful, and he always mentions it's a little town.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful little town. And she says,
it's small, but yeah.
She does say something sort of on par with the unlimited dishes.
Yeah.
And she says that it's the easiest town to sell in the world.
All right, COC lady.
I appreciate her optimism, though.
We just recently were in Reedley. It was very nice.
And very friendly people.
Yes, but I think she might have some trouble. I mean, you got the quilts and the raw meat. Those are very interesting things.
Yeah.
But I don't think someone from Bangladesh is going to travel all the way to Reedley based on those two things. So
I think you could just leave off the last bit and say, oh, it's a pretty easy town to sell. Much more.
Period.
Yes.
You got it.
That's perfect.
Speaking of periods, that's the period on this segment. Huell gets one little extra tip about where to go next. And
he hops into the back of an old car and...
Oh, yeah, he does. He gets in the car to then go to the next spot, which is Camden and the Camden Cafe. Let's hear why he's there.
Now, I know from the outside this looks like just another quaint little cafe. But when you go inside, well, inside, every afternoon, there's history being made.
And didn't work out like I wanted to.
Didn't work out quite as good, did it?
Didn't work out as good as I wanted to.
They sit over at the corner table, and they're always there, every afternoon, regular as clockwork. A bunch of guys playing Pinochle. But what makes this particular Pinochle game just a little bit out of the ordinary, what makes it part of history, is that it started 37 years ago.
I got 75.
There it is. The Cammy Calf.
Camden Cafe. Breakfast and lunch.
No, breakfast in lunch.
Breakfast and lunch. Camden Cafe. So, this is 1992. They show the outside of the cafe, and I don't think any car is newer than 1975.
Yes.
These are classics we got going on
Is
outside.
that a Pinto?
I think it is. It's some sort of Ford wagon, either way.
And even the method of cooling the Camden Cafe.
What's that?
Is
Is that a swamp?
A beautiful swamp.
That's right.
You can call it an evaporative cooler.
Yeah, there you go. But the reason we're here is because of this Pinochle game.
It's not spelled like how you would, like phonically. How would you spell that?
Okay, you're bringing this up. We also talked about the fact that Pinochle decks are different than regular decks, supposedly. Because I remember seeing them in Long's Drugs. Pinochle deck, you don't want to get that one. You want to get the regular deck. Thanks, Mom taught me a lesson when I was 5, 6 years old. I never heard the word said. So I thought it was Pinochle.
I'll say, or Pinochle.
Pinochle. Yeah, but Pinochle. It doesn't...
Because I would, I'd write it down. hyphen K-N-U-C-K-L-E. Pinochle.
Pinochle. But
Oh, man.
this game has been going on for 37 years.
So, do you think, because the first bit when Huell talks about it, when you watch this segment, do you think that guy's been slamming those cards down for 37 years? The hardest I've ever seen.
So, okay, well, let me one up you on that.
Okay.
The guy that's opposite him, which they show his hands up close constantly, which, thanks a lot, Louis. You picked the guy missing 3 fingers, or like 2.5 fingers, as your close-up, Louis? But do you think maybe he's slammed so much?
He slammed so hard he lost a finger?
Yeah. Because those are the fingers that homeboy
That's true.
across is slamming.
Oh, that's a good point.
So
Well,
this game, it's a trip because
I have no idea how it's played to this day. I mean, I have no idea. It looked like every card they had was either a jack, queen, king, or an ace, and that was it. Maybe that's the difference.
Yeah, maybe it's all face cards.
Maybe.
I don't know.
And they're holding like 20 of them. To me, it just stresses me out. Yeah.
So Huell starts interviewing the guys, and he kind of talks to one guy most of the time. And it's obvious if you pay attention to the other players that at one point the cards are dealt, they're ready to play. Huell's holding the game up, and you can feel the tension rising with them because they're all looking at each other. They got to stay quiet because, you know, old Roy at the end is doing the interview. And
there's some passive aggressive. Well, I don't want to say passive aggressive, but sort of like they're snide comments.
Yeah, because then once the game gets going again, Huell interviews the guy on his left. And this guy, this is a certain type of guy. I got to tell you, my grandpa, who I've mentioned before, who had the California's Gold interviewee like uniform down pat, this is what he was like, because I witnessed it. This is what he was like when I wasn't around.
Okay.
Or he thought I wasn't around. He was this kind of like, you know, busting your chops kind of guy with his slick, balding hair and like his big, meaty mitt hands.
Well, did he wear his wristwatch up his forearm?
Yeah.
That's high as this guy here?
Well, his would get that far because he would push it up that far because he wore it real loose.
Oh, it was the elastic band.
Exactly, yeah. But because his hands were so like thick and meaty, when he would push it over his hands a bunch of times, it would stretch that.
So it's the same problem of having a thick knuckle and putting a ring on.
Same thing. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So this guy that we're explaining, we get no names here, so I'm going to call him Jack because that was my grandpa's name. So Jack, he starts the hand. He's like, oh, well, if I renege on this because I got all this static on my side, is that going to cause some trouble? So
Huell takes it. I mean, he hears them.
Huell is the static, by the way.
Yeah, no, he is. But he hears them, and there's just kind of like, oh,
yeah.
Okay, didn't hurt my feelings.
Huell also is very aware that these guys are ready to take his money at any moment.
Yes. Well, they mention that. Do you want to get in on this? Because we need some foreign money.
I guess they just trade the same $10 around over and over. Did you notice old Ted?
I feel bad for Ted.
Yeah,
because
he gets a little interview, though.
He does. So for anyone watching, he's obviously a hardworking guy, and he spends his lunches at Camden Cafe, and he just watches the game.
Very intensely. Like, he's at a table with two friends, but he's turned completely opposite of them to watch the Pinochle.
He is waiting because there are two older gentlemen who are watching the game as well. The three players that are currently playing. And I think that Ted is just waiting he's so eager to be drafted to the majors and just sit at the table and watch. Because I think the way this works is you start at the table next to them. Mm-hmm. You watch it. That's single A ball. And then double A is when you get to sit at the table and watch them play. And then triple A, maybe minors, I don't know. This analogy is breaking down. But
well, maybe when you're like AAA ball, that's when you're like get to shuffle.
Oh yeah, that's good.
And then finally you get called up to the majors, you get that first at bat.
And you just slam that card down.
Maybe that's how he lost that finger. That first hand, he's like so excited, bam. So the same guy.
Well, before we get there,
okay.
The Eight Fingers McGee.
Yeah.
I wouldn't feel bad if it was like a horrible accident that he lost his finger.
Well, I'm sure it was. There's rarely good reasons to lose fingers.
It's true, but he still shuffles better than I do.
Yeah, he's got this weird technique, but he gets it done quick.
And I'm just a horrible shuffler.
Yeah, but right after the shuffle,
which is your favorite part.
Old Jack, he's like waiting for the cards to get shuffled. And he's like, oh well, Guess I got time to take a sip.
All right. I need to take a sip.
And it's the biggest plastic cup of soft drink. And his sip is the biggest gulp you could ever take. Like mouth complete. Oh, huge.
It's so true.
Oh,
man.
But after we get to talk with the players, Huell interviews the owner of the restaurant, who's the new owner. She just bought this restaurant from the previous owners.
How would you describe her?
Laconic.
That's a very good one. She's probably not going to win any personality contests
There you go.
anytime soon.
But
But she's
this
still
is a long
very
time
nice.
ago. She may be.
Maybe she was
a
nervous.
dynamo now.
Maybe she's nervous on camera, and she likes to be a behind the scenes business owner.
Yeah.
So we'll give her that.
So she inherited this game, and she's into it, and she actually wants to get a women's game going, but that's not going to happen for a couple years, she says.
And we were talking about this a couple years. Why?
Yeah, I know.
You're the owner.
Are these guys that like old school that they won't let some ladies play this game and slam their little dainty hands on the table?
Well, I think what we need to do, which, we didn't do this, unfortunately, we need to walk in to this cafe and see what the heck's going on and
we
assess
do.
the sitch.
Because you looked it up online, there's nothing that we could find.
As of 2002, this was still going on, but I couldn't tell. That's 16 years ago. So
Yeah. Anyone out there who lives in the Fresno County area wants to take a little road trip out to Camden, check this out, let us know. Please do. But there's one extra little exclamation point on this last segment here. Huell talks to another old guy at the counter, and he is explaining about how this building, Camden Cafe, used to be a garage. It used to be a mechanic's garage. And he talks about how there's been players in the game even back then when... And what were the names? Tell me the names.
Okay, so here are the names. We had Jay, Gagopian,
Yeah.
Wes Gill, Dave Weil, and Jumbo.
Why? I mean, why did Jumbo get a nickname? It probably is self-evident, but
He was just rest in peace.
yeah,
But before we go, he mentioned the person who owned the garage.
Yeah.
Remember that?
yeah. What was that guy's name?
It was old Scratch Larson.
What do you do with that? Like,
It's such a name you couldn't make up.
no.
It's Scratch. I would never.
What? Why? How? We'll never know.
We'll never know. But
We'll never know.
Yeah, it's good though. It's a good name. But before we leave, they're very optimistic that this game is going to continue on.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, we need to pop in there, or if someone can do it for us, let us know if their optimism was, correct. Fulfilled, yeah.
So that kind of wraps up the episode proper here. We have the credit scene where Huell's in the car. He's, doing his wrap up. And then they just show some, not stock footage, but just some footage that Louis got of Huell looking in the Quilt Museum, which is upstairs above the store itself. And they play some traditional Armenian music, which you'll hear at the end. But this Quilt Museum is where we're going to switch gears here.
Yep.
And we're going to get our friends and wives in here, and we're going to hear about our Blossom Trail experience, because we were here and we did some stuff.
But we also planned it so we didn't miss.
Yeah, that was our whole point. We wanted to do this, see the actual Blossom Trail that Huell missed, and report on it. Didn't work out for us that well either.
Maybe a little better than Huell, but
Slightly.
not optimal, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
But let's get them in here. Hang tight.
Hey, guys, hey, come on. on?
This is amazing.
Okay, everyone's here.
Gang's here.
Okay, first off, my wife Erin.
Hey.
My friend Steve.
Hey.
My wife Kathleen.
Hello.
And Steven's wife Megan.
Hey.
We're all here. We're sitting around. We all went on the Blossom Trail. And like we said, it was the whole point is to do it right, because Huell screwed it up.
Yeah.
Not really. But
Nah.
basically, we wanted to see it because he got us excited. And it so happens that we got the chance to do the same thing that they did, and that is explore the Blossom Trail in Ford Explorer, thanks to Stephen and Megan, because they have a Ford Explorer.
Steve,
And
is
yeah.
this the reason that you bought a Ford Explorer?
Which episode specifically made you think Explorer?
The first one?
There you go.
That's a good answer.
Okay.
From the beginning, turned him.
Yeah. So we got in the Explorer and we headed down the road on the trail itself
Well, we headed up the road, up the 99.
from Bakersfield.
Yeah.
They headed
From Beefield. They headed down from
They
Fresno, and we met up where?
We met up in Fowler, California, off the 99. Manning Avenue.
You got the details. Stephen also was the main driver. He was the leading force. He was the Huell of this episode.
He was, yeah.
And we ended up we went by, what was the story you told us?
Which story?
The railroad bridge story.
Okay, yeah. So heading out toward the east side using Manning Avenue, you hit a couple towns, and like the main town where Huell stops in is Reedley, California.
Mm-hmm.
So for about a year, maybe less than a year, it was about a school year, so
10 months.
Yeah, 9 months or so. My family and I lived out in Reedley because my mom took a job for one of the wineries out there. And I think at the time we only had one car. And my dad needed to take me to school, but my mom had taken the car earlier in the day. And me and my dad had to pull a Stand By Me and go across the train tracks over the Kings River, which flows right through Reedley. So literally we were walking over a bridge on railroad tracks.
And that wasn't a short bridge. It was pretty tall.
It was pretty substantial, yeah.
Especially for a little kid.
Yeah. Oh, no, it was great. Fourth grade?
Yeah.
I was in fifth grade. Fifth grade.
So we headed to Reedley just like Huell did because we kind of experienced the same issue. Where were the blossoms? There were some, but it wasn't as much as we expected.
Right.
And
Well, I think that the question that you asked were donde está blossom?
yes, I didn't say that, but that was the same thought running through our heads, maybe in English.
Well, Kathleen and I had what I thought it was a comfy, cozy spot in the back.
Yeah, you were riding a double back.
Yeah.
We were mid level.
Yeah.
But Reedley looks nearly identical to the way it did in the episode.
It is a snapshot.
Yes, just the cars are newer.
And some of those.
And some, yeah. I mean, there wasn't that roadster with the rumble seat that Huell was in. But we decided to go to the Mennonite Quilting Center as well. And
well, I guess we can ask, what was your first impression of the museum? Kathleen, sorry.
Hello. This is Kathleen. I thought it was really quaint and really just cute. When we went up to see all the quilts? The museum, yes. Yeah, I tried to look in the guest book.
Which was a great idea. I hadn't thought to do that.
So I was really hopeful that we were going to have a signature by Huell, but...
I know.
it went back far, right?
Yeah, I went back. Do you remember the...
Mid-90s.
Yeah, so it was likely that we would have seen it, but I think we...
92.
Yeah, we just missed it, so I was kind of bummed out about that. But
Almost
it was
did it.
cute. It was very cute.
But we put our name in the book, right?
Yeah, so
I think you call us the Huell boys. Is that why do you call us boys? And not like boys to men or
Huell boys, 2 men. I don't know.
so
But
dumb.
it's funny because we act like we're all gregarious guys on this show, but Allan and I we're too shy to talk to anyone. So Steven actually did all the question asking. He got us up into the museum and got us a tour because it was closed. And I forget the woman's name. I don't even know if she told us her name.
There were 2 women. The first one that I talked to seemed like the boss. Like she was like a director and she knew what was going on. And then we were telling her our story of why we were at the store, and she flags down this other gal. I forget what her name was.
Yeah.
Well, it could be, Chris, we were just watching this bit. Maybe it's the young girl who was sitting
You
quilting.
know? It was the youngin.
It was the young
We didn't get her name in the episode either, but
Maybe it was her.
yeah.
And so the director lady tells the second gal to take us up to the museum because the museum was closed, and she
We
brings
just
us
got
up there.
like a special tour just for us.
Oh yeah, just for us. We mentioned that we were there because of the
'Cause of
episode.
this show. She didn't even know.
Oh
at
yeah,
all
no, she was just
what
like
we were talking about.
yeah. So, but that was pretty cool, and we went upstairs to the museum.
And it was cool. We saw the quilts. They were getting ready to send them off for one of the quilt sales that they do, which we learned in the episode. All the money goes to relief work.
Right?
But
Psych.
the quilt store was fun. We headed outside to go back into the main room, and then something crazy happened.
It was a terrifying sound. Megan, do you remember it?
Yeah, I thought that we were all going to die. Yeah, we were just standing there talking to the woman, and this sounded like a nuclear alarm or something was going off. And the lady remained completely calm and did not flinch at all. And the mailman kept delivering mail. And we all looked around like, what is happening?
That was our first sign that this probably was a normal thing.
Yeah, but
She
I mean,
just-
there's tension, North Korea, for timestamping this this episode, so we didn't know. Why would they target Reedley? I don't know, but but then we actually received a message on Instagram from the Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
in Reedley.
And there was some debate as to what the siren actually was, but I think the consensus is that it's basically a lunch bell.
It's a lunch bell. It's also the start of a hopscotch game. The kids played in the 40s.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. That's not true.
No.
Yeah, when I was there last, I was told that it was definitely like a lunch call because everyone that was working out in the fields, it would be like the main siren to like lunchtime, everyone. So because there's just a bunch of orchards all around.
Seems like a very loud, crazy thing to have just to tell everyone.
You couldn't just have a big triangle.
I know.
Okay, so we just had an epiphany.
Yeah.
Steven did, I should say, for the group. What was her name, Steven? The person who gave us the tour of the Quilt Museum.
Brenda.
Brenda.
It was Brenda. It was Brenda. Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Okay, so we shlommy out, right, from the Quilt Museum.
Yep.
And where do we go?
I don't remember where we were headed, but we kind of just...
Definitely east.
Yeah, we just kept going on the trail itself. We did see some blossoms. We got out. We took pictures.
Did
And
we pass Uncle Harry's on the way out?
yeah, because it's right down the block. And that's when Steven told us that he had eaten there, which you didn't have the raw meat ball thing, did you?
No, I think it had some kind of like kebab, some kind of shish in nature.
A shish kebab. Okay.
Shish in nature.
Well, as we learned earlier, there's unlimited dishes, so
Yeah.
who knows what you had.
Steven can have any iteration, right?
You'll
Those
remember in
dishes.
5 minutes, and we'll have to add it in. So we headed towards more blossoms. We saw blossoms, some.
Were there a few buses too?
It was the Blossom Trail bus tour. They do that, and it's the Sanger Chamber of Commerce, and they do like a tour, and I think it's like $60, and you get like a picnic lunch, and you get to stop at some of the wineries, and they like tell you all this history. So it's like a thing. Yeah.
I like it. And we did end up going to one of those wineries.
We did. I have never been to a winery.
It was Allan's first time. It's odd with the gallons and gallons of wine he drinks. He's never... Just kidding. He doesn't drink at all. Yeah, what was the place called, guys?
Marshall.
Okay.
Marshall. Is that they have Pine Knot there?
What?
But no. Pinot Noir.
Oh, is that what you were...
Brand new used car.
That's what you were trying to say?
Yeah.
We played... what's the...
It's...
Cornhole.
Or is it cowboy golf as well, right? Isn't that...
I've never heard of cowboy.
Maybe not. Maybe that's wrong.
Turns out that Allan is a natural and beat our pants off at that.
Everyone gets lucky their first time.
It didn't seem like it was your first time, but okay.
Speaking of your first time, Kathleen, was this your first time at a winery?
It was. It made me feel like a big fancy girl, and I liked it.
They were really friendly, though, right?
Oh yeah, super friendly. And they could immediately tell it was my first time, but it was great. Yeah, it was really fun.
That's cool.
Aaron, it's not your first time at a winery. Where would you rate it, you think? Putting you on the spot.
I have been to a few wineries before. It was really good. They were friendly. I tasted some reds. It was good quality wine.
Yeah, and it was one of those situations where it's odd, where you don't feel like you're only a couple miles out of Fresno.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you are in like an agricultural area, but it like kind of cools I mean, it wasn't hot time of year, but it was...
I kind of like the feel of it, though.
Mediterranean.
Too. I mean, for a first time going to a winery, I get intimidated by these Paso Robles wineries, or we lived in Livermore, and that seemed a little more high end, so it was nice to ease into it.
Yeah.
The nice thing about these wineries over close to Sanger and in that area is that you have the view of the mountains, versus we have a lot of wineries in Fresno, and some of them are, on the other side. I guess that's west, right? Yeah, and so you just see land. So being at these wineries, you get that really pretty landscape.
Looking at the Cascades and stuff, and that whole area is pretty cool too, just because it's kind of like a microclimate for a lot of those crops and that what's grown out there. So it's really unique to that area.
And once we left the winery, I don't remember which happened first, but we ate lunch at a pretty cool spot. That
we got back in.
You guys,
we were in our own microclimate
of the Ford Explorer. Which there were actually three separate. Or can you separate it in the 3 seat sections? Because I know we could have our own.
I think it's just 2. You're talking about the airflow?
Yeah.
The actual microclimate? Yeah. I think just 2. I think we could just have 2.
So you had yours, we had ours, even though I think they were set at the same, but we could have been having a sauna in the back, and you guys would have been in the Arctic.
I do have to say that the blossoms right by the winery were really pretty.
Those were the ones
where we
that
got
were,
out and took pictures and kind of looked at them, and they were awesome.
Yeah, we'll have to put some of those pictures.
We'll schlum them up
this time.
But the lunch spot, we had never heard of it. Aaron and I had never heard of it, but you, Stephen and Megan, had told Allan and Kathleen about it. And explain this place, because it's a trip.
Yeah, so this was right before right before we went to the winery, when we were leaving Reedley, and I think it's off of the 180, I believe, heading out to Squaw Valley, and it's going up to Hume. Is it? Okay, and literally it's called the Schoolhouse Restaurant, and it literally was a schoolhouse that was rocking. That they transformed into two restaurant styles. There's a tavern and a full-on restaurant, and the tavern is a little more kickback and pretty chill with a limited menu, and the restaurant has whole nother menu.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, and the cool thing is they have like lots of old school decor in there. They have like old class pictures and old fans, and everything is very preserved from actually when it was a schoolhouse.
Yeah, Steven took us like on a little walk around towards, because the way to the bathrooms had the old it was like the old blueprints of the school, and Steven's a good tour guide.
Yeah, no, that I really like that people like incorporate like the original like structure and the purpose of what that was for. It's a really cool idea.
Yeah.
I think also if we would have stuck around, they were having a karaoke night.
I know. Alan, you would have been slamming...
Don't Miss a Thing by Aerosmith.
There you go.
Is that the name of the song?
I don't know.
I just know the lyrics. I don't know that.
Just one of the ones with Alicia Silverstone in the video, right? Whichever one that is.
Yeah.
From there, we head back out on the trail, and as this is an agricultural area, there are a ton of fruit stands everywhere.
Super good fruit stands.
Yeah. And we stopped at one of them. Which one was that, guys?
It was.
Do you remember?
It's on the corner of the 180 and Reed Avenue, I think. And not Reed Avenue. I forget.
I don't know the name of it, but I just know that it's like one of the most popular ones. Like lots of tour buses stop by there, and in the summer it's like full of beaches. And I mean, we kind of went. When did we go? Was it a while ago?
Late February, I think.
Yeah, so it's like right kind of in the not best produce season. So, but in the summer it's like packed with lots of good stuff.
It is Reed in the 180.
Okay.
And when we went there, I mean, I know personally, Kathleen and myself, we successfully bought 0 amounts of fruit, right? Or did we get fruit?
Well, mine was dried fruit that everyone hated.
Which one did you get?
The chili mango.
Yeah. No one wanted that but you.
Fine by me, okay?
Yeah. Because it's kind of a similar thing. I got the dried kiwi, and no one was into that either. Oh, well, maybe I just was saying that in my head so that none of you would eat my fruit.
I'll say I got the chocolate-covered almonds.
Is an almond a fruit? I know it's a nut, but does the nut part, is that considered the fruit? Hold on, let's look it up.
This is amazing.
All right, we're back. And yes, nuts are fruit. It's the fruit
there you go.
of the loom. Okay, but yeah.
Well, I was thinking, because you got the dried mangoes with chilies.
Mm-hmm.
This is something about Kathleen. She would drink Lucas, not the motor oil.
That would be death.
No.
Yeah.
I think it's just a taste.
You were alone in the car as far as wanting that spicy candy, but you're definitely not alone in the world because most people like that.
True.
But we stopped at that stand, but we drove past a number of others, and one of them was actually featured in a different Huell Hauser production. It was a separate episode as a road trip episode where Huell goes on what is the fruit trail, which seems like the Blossom Trail becomes the fruit trail in the summer. And the owner...
You saw a familiar figure.
The owner of that fruit stand was opening up his doors, and he's got a very particular look. He's a robust man, and he wore suspenders. I noticed that, and I was yelling in the car, "That's him! That's the guy!" So that was exciting. It was like seeing a celebrity. But that's about it.
I would consider it a successful trip.
Yes, it was. It ended up being very similar to Huell's in that we kind of just was flying by the seat of our pants, going wherever the road told us to go.
Yeah. Well, partly where Huell told us to go, and then
where Stephen and Megan said that we should go to.
So the committee on the Blossom Trail puts out the map and so we were following like pretty much all the avenues of the map of where it goes. So it gets like released. I want to say like a couple of weeks before the.
Is it different every year?
No. They just there may be like some new stuff, like maybe a new fruit stand that opens up or something. But typically, it's just gonna be like the main, like Manning that we went through, Reed, but also there's also the citrus blossom trail, which is like more going toward the east side.
And that was on the map too, right?
That was on the map. Yeah,
we just didn't have time for that.
We just stayed in like the general region of Sanger, Reedley area. But yeah, we could have went further out to the east toward the foothills.
Well, it was fun. We want to go on it again when it's fruit time, because I don't know if anyone else in the room has watched that fruit episode yet, but it's a trip how much fruit Huell eats while he's just, because they offer him samples, and then grabby old Huell has to try everything, and he's just, let me try it.
I know, right? And you have to know where the restrooms are. I feel like you should plan that out.
Yeah, because these stone fruits, they're highly fibrous.
Yeah.
So,
what about the fruit guarding dog? The German, I think.
The dog that just lays down.
Just laid there.
Well, we're gonna do that. It's a ways down the line, but we're gonna hit it. But that about does it for our show, and we want to thank all our friends for coming, friends and family, and we just hope that you come along with us next time as we all continue our search together for
Huell!